we're on.
All right, and welcome to Mythical Monster Investigations episode. Oh God, what are we on? Like 39 or
They can
something?
look in the
I don't
title.
know.
They can look in the title.
It's been a while. We've all had some things going on. Um,
Happy
but
Valentine's Day. Late Valentine's Day. Happy Single Awareness Day.
I thought you were gonna say Happy
Happy
Discount
Discount
Chocolate
Chocolate Day.
Day. Yeah,
Yeah, that one.
that's more appropriate. Um, but yeah, welcome back, and I'm your host Archimage, along with my co-host.
Shadow Fox.
And said,
And we've got a fun one today, at least what I hope will be fun, or it's going to be long and tedious. Let's find out which one. We're going to be doing Kitsune, the great fox spirit. Well, I'm not sure it's great, but definitely a lot of people know about it. And this is even before its more modern throwings about. But we'll get into that in a bit. Go ahead and switch slides. So, Kitsune literally means it literally means fox, but in folklore, which is what we're going to be talking about, it means fox spirit. And this fox spirit possesses supernatural powers, most notably shape shifting, but it's also known to beguile and bewitch, and has commonly been described as a disorienting deity, or as it said, that makes the traveler lose its way. Um, Yeah. So apparently, in fact, one of the more common things was for instance, to this day, many travelers or many people who go hiking who stray off the path claim that they were following a kitsune or that a kitsune led them astray. So apparently, this is still very much intact within Japanese culture, and I want to bring
Oh,
that up just
Tanuki.
because we'll actually touch on that, but I want to bring that up because it's going to play in later on towards the end of this, where we kind of look at this a bit, and well, we'll go into that. But you did mention Tanuki, so go ahead and switch slides. This fox spirit has actually a lot of powers in common with the Tanuki or the raccoon dog, with it also representing a real animal as well as a spirit with several powers. And the Tanuki could also shapeshift. It was also known for leading those astray, blame wandering path, and the Kitsune was also known for tricks. Um, Many tricks would also include bathing and getting people to bathe in manure, eat horse dung, and of course the ever famous leaf money, which we'll touch on a bit later on this. But baths in manure and eating horse dung, yeah, to be fair, I would be kind of ticked off if anything tricked me into bathing in manure.
I mean, this sounds like an episode of Jackass.
Really
I think, you know what? I'm working off two theories now. Either Johnny Knoxville is a Tanuki, or the Tanukis with the inspiration for Jackass.
I think stupidity was the inspiration
Could
for
you
Jackass.
imagine Johnny Knoxville coming out and go, this time we're going to make people take a bath in horse manure?
Yeah, I could completely see him doing that.
I'm surprised they actually haven't done that.
For all we, has he not done that? I don't watch
I
Jackass.
don't believe so.
Well, I don't watch Jackass. Jackass is really stupid.
Now I
And
gotta look.
I'm sorry, I don't like. For all of you Jackass fans out there, I'm sorry, I don't like stupid humor. It's not my thing. And yeah, I go with the inspiration for Jackass was stupidity. I mean, I don't really think that's far from the mark.
I mean,
I,
not really.
Thank you.
That's the whole point of it. Oh, you're
Exactly.
right. Yes, they have in
You
Jackass
see,
3D the poop cocktail.
okay.
I'm not sure what offends me more, the fact that it's in 3D or the fact that they named it that. Okay, like I said, stupid. But I do want to touch on this strain from the path thing because it is kind of a parallel we see in a lot of these stories about strain from the path. For instance, the tale of Little Red Riding Hood was about not straying from the path, or in their case, you'll get eaten by a wolf. In this case, we have two animals who also lead you astray, though I don't think they typically end up eating you. So that's a good thing. But,
Um,
well, I
it
don't know. Do they?
depends. There are some, so not so much for the Tanuki. They usually just trick you into the worst case I've heard is the Tanuki tricking a traveler to a point that their tricks led them to their death, such as they tricked them into and they got them so lost in the woods they die as like starvation, or they wander off of a cliff or something like that. Same with the fox actually will eat you.
I mean, it's a fox. So
Yeah,
yeah.
the stories of the Kitsune eating people in both
I,
Chinese and Japanese folk tales.
yeah. Again, it's a fox, which I do find kind of funny. Like, Shadow our Fox. Obviously, because you're a logo, I assume you like foxes, right?
Yes, canines.
Foxes, yeah, foxes are real. Foxes are actually pretty cute animals. It's they're cute enough to where you actually forget that they are a carnivore.
Yes, and because they're part of the canine family.
Yeah, and they are carnivore, and they can be kind of savage at times, but you kind of forget that because they're rather cute little creatures.
I mean, so is a wolf, but it can get big.
Yeah, well, I mean, even when a fox is big, it can still be cute. Like have like a full-grown wolf.
It's huge.
Yeah, is huge, and I'm sorry, like they're majestic. I wouldn't call them cute,
I would
especially those
say
teeth.
with foxes so foxes are interesting canines because if I recall, foxes are the only member of the canine family that can actively climb trees, um, like
I
a
think
cat.
so.
Um, they foxes of the cases of people keeping foxes as pet or domesticating foxes, they tend to pick up the habits of a dog. If they are domesticated with a dog, they will start barking and making noises like a dog. Their habits will be very similar to a dog, in how they behave, but they're very active, especially during night, and they have a lot of energy comparable to, I guess you would compare it to a work dog.
Right.
And they like to dig, so kind of like with cats, they will like scratch up furniture and stuff like that, if memory serves.
Got it.
Oh, and they got
Um,
a natural musk that you cannot bathe away, so they always kind of smell.
yeah. I think ferrets are similar.
Mm-hmm.
On a side note, not all foxes can climb trees.
Not all, but I know they are the only canine that have the potential to climb trees.
Yes, but there is one that primarily does. That's primarily the gray fox,
Yes.
which would mean wait, nope, never mind.
I think
But
the red
funny
fox can
enough,
also, yeah, climb trees.
it has the potential, but apparently mostly the gray fox. The red fox is not known for climbing trees.
Not known, but I believe it has the ability to climb trees, if memory serves correctly.
Yeah, that would bring up a question because believe it or not, this was actually and one of Aesop's fables. Aesop liked to tell a little fable and then make one short little statement at the end to give a lesson, right? Um, One of his fables was about a cat and a fox, and the fox was telling the cat that he was far more clever than the cat, and he had so many tricks to avoid the hunter's dogs. And the cat said the cat only had one, and hunter's dogs came along. So the cat runs up a tree and says, "This is my trick." And the fox was thinking of which trick to use, and he tries a bunch of them, but all his tricks get seen through by the dogs, and the dogs end up catching him and taking him away. And then the fable is the lesson is it's better to have one surefire trick than a bunch of ones that don't really work. But I think that's kind of funny considering that foxes are technically capable of climbing trees.
Yeah.
Which, sorry for the long-winded story there. Out of curiosity, has anyone read Aesop's fables besides me?
No.
Really? No one?
Mm-mm.
Ugh.
Nope.
More detriment to our education system. Okay, so moving on. We're going to be moving. Go ahead and switch slides. We're going to be branching off to the different
Here
branches
we
of
go.
fox spirits. And the one that is particularly known is the fox wife or the vixen fox. which may very well be where the term foxy came from to mean, sexy woman or yeah, that. Though I don't know that for sure. I didn't actually look that up. um, or the so to reference that, we have that in the Tamona no Mak, which no Tamono Mome, which I probably absolutely butchered that. But this is actually believed to be based on a real historical empress consort named I'm going to butcher this Fijioro nu Naraku. Well, whatever. She was an emperor's consort who participated in a number of succession struggles, leading to the Hogan and Hiju rebellions. And essentially, her whole thing, or the whole mystique behind the vixen fox, is that these will lead good emperors astray because essentially they're pulling the strings from behind the scenes. These are fox spirits who possess or corrupt women who then influence emperors to destroy their own dynasty.
And it was the
So,
he was a
yeah,
consort to the empress, not the shogun.
I think she was a consort to the emperor.
Okay. Because I just know with the shogunate there was a consort to them as well, and because you know how the shogunate kind of pulled the string at one point in Japan, and that's why I was wondering if it was they had a huge problem with the consort of the
Uh,
shogunate constantly pulling strings. That's why I was
no,
asking.
I don't think this is specifically the tale about a woman bringing down a man because of her bad advice and desires.
Okay.
Like this is that story, which, to be fair, does it has happened in real life. There have been stories where men have fallen head over heels for women, and that woman has absolutely been their downfall in several ways. Sometimes to her fault, her own fault. Sometimes not to her own fault. It depends. But this is not an unheard of story. Uh, hey, beautiful women, men can get stupid around them.
Eh,
Which, go ahead.
Well, no, I was gonna say since you were asking about have there ever been cases of the kitsune eating? These are the cases I hear. The fox wives.
Oh, okay.
These folk tales always generally end with the kitsune eating either the husband or the children or
Gotcha.
both.
Yeah, makes sense. But yeah, so this is kind of a separate branch of the fox wife, or the fox spirit, the fox wife, the vixen fox. This isn't all of them, but it's one of them, and that brings us to our next one. Go ahead and switch slides.
And there's a lot of folk tales for the fox wife. Oh my goodness, there's
Oh,
so many.
tell me about it. I tried to just kind of stick to some of the early ones, and we'll see why in a bit. But this gives us the famous nine-tailed fox, which I think is the most known version of Kitsune, though it's not the only one. This is the one that people typically remember and like to draw or depict in paintings, even back in ancient times, because, well, I guess a nine-tailed fox just looks cool.
Let me
I
ask,
mean,
I guess
shoot.
kind of spoilers if it is true. Do you talk about the other tail foxes where the two tails, three tails, I think
Um,
six tails?
I'm going to. I'm kind of. I will mention the I'm mentioning the significant. Actually, I'm going to mention it right now. The number of tails indicates a kitsune's age, its wisdom, and its power, with nine considered to be the most powerful. And other tails actually do have different symbols, but I
Well,
wasn't going to talk about them specifically. So if you want to add in with that, feel free.
because some of those tails are straight up different foxes, like they are different types of yokais. If I
Yeah,
can,
they this can get a little weird with the tails.
yeah, let
I tried to stick mostly with that, but the tails can have different powers, different yokais, and different
let me see if I can
overall.
find it.
It's almost like leveling up in a video game. You get a tail for it. Oh, and also gaining the nine tails sometimes will allow the fox to gain a golden or white coat. Not like an actual coat, like its fur will change into golden or white, which obviously are symbols of either purity or power,
Usually, it
which
make them.
is fun.
They claim to make them omnipotent,
Omnipotent?
omnipotent, I believe.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Its powers actually were a little ambiguous. But the Nine-Tailed is supposed to be the most powerful. So kudos on Naruto for getting that right. Wait, was the Nine-Tailed the most powerful in Naruto, or was there a 10th tail?
No, there is a 10th tail. Um, it's kind of a which is the strongest. But the 10th tail kind of is like this official monster type stuff.
Oh. Okay, whatever. I don't. You know what? Naruto got really weird.
It went
I mean,
Dragon
to be
Ball
fair,
Z.
Naruto was already weird, but it was like it got even weirder. I mean, it was weird that you had a ninja in bright orange, but
Who yell
whatever.
believe it all the time.
Tell me about it. With like the freaking ninja magic, which, and it took them forever to do anything. Like, they stayed in a forest for like 3 seasons. Well, it wasn't that bad, but still, my point is like half of Naruto it was just like filler nonsense. Although I guess that's a lot of animes now that I think about it. Oh well, but sorry, did you want to mention something about the tails?
I was trying desperately to find because I had like an image that was basically a summarization of the different tailed foxes and their significant. But I won't be able. I thought I had saved that, but maybe I didn't save it because if I remember correctly, it was like it was like basically there was a two-tailed fox that I think was black, a three-tailed fox that I believe was usually white. It was like various different versions of a kitsune with different tails that had different names, different properties, different abilities. Um, that leads up to, and essentially they were all subservient to what will ultimately become the nine-tailed fox. Like some was better with illusions, some were better with what you I'm sure you'll get to with the foxfire. Some was better with some was a little bit better with both. Some brought disaster, some brought good fortune.
So it's a ranking system.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much what
it was ranking
out.
system, but they had name and they had like titles and stuff like that.
Yeah, I believe that. So, but yeah, because I was thinking each tail again 9 was considered to be the most powerful, which we're gonna look more into that.
Yeah, I think 100 years per tail, if memory serves.
That sounds about right. Though I'm not gonna lie, a lot of these stories and myths varied, which we're also gonna get into a little bit. But go ahead and switch slides because this is something I found kind of interesting. Was perhaps the origin of the famous Pokemon cards, because apparently Japan has been into these cards for a long time. Now, for those of you watching on YouTube, we've got on the right the classic Ninetales from the Pokemon game, which Shadow R Fox, isn't that your favorite card? Or am I getting that wrong?
I'm now trying to check if I have that card because I have a Charizard card. But I don't know if I. Oh yes, I got it. It's on. It literally as I open up my Pokemon card book of all the cards I have. It's the first card I see. Center of the page. Ninetale. That very image of.
Yeah. So definitely. So apparently this has had a longer history because, again, for those watching on YouTube, if you look to your left on the other side of this, you will see a Kitsune card from the 19th century in a Japanese card game. So you can see it was quite a change, but apparently Japan has been obsessed with making this card for quite some time. And as an interesting side note, before I'll hand it over to Zed to talk about this Pokemon, apparently card games were actually introduced to Japan by the Portuguese traders in the 16th century, and it just completely took off. So I thought that was an interesting tidbit. I would not have thought Portuguese traders were the ones who introduced a card game to Japan, which would literally create something that would spawn an absolute phenomenon that launched across the world. So we now know the true origins of Pokemon in this. So that's something. With that, Zed, teach us a little bit about the Ninetales and other potentials.
I believe Ninetales within the world of Pokemon is very similar to the normal Ninetales legend. There's quite a few different ones or different things mentioned in it. For example, most of it, the dex entries I see are talking about how if you grab one of its tails, it could result in a 1,000-year curse.
Damn.
Another one is mentioning that it is said to a legend that 9 noble saints were reincarnated into Ninetales.
Nice.
Also, apparently that it lives for those 1,000 years. That I guess the curse exists. All I can guess.
Not only does it curse you, it lives long enough to watch you have those curse years. Wow.
Yep. Oh, that's
pissy.
lovely. And some that it mentions how it casts a sinister light from its bright red eyes to gain total control over its foe's mind.
Yes, I remember that.
Okay, so that's the bewitching and beguile thing from the original legend.
And there was a version that had, like, I think the 5-tail had the ability to possess. Is when it got the ability to start possessing people, I believe. 5 or 6 tails.
Okay, curiosity. Does the Vulpix have 9 tails?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh no, the Vulpix. Sorry, I thought I said
the
9
Vulpix.
tail.
The Vulpix, according to this picture,
Six,
if I'm looking at it, it has 6. Yeah, it looks like it has 6.
Okay.
Which makes sense because Vulpix can learn psychic moves.
Yes.
Okay, so it goes from 6 tails to 9 tails. Is there, or did they add like new evolutions for Vulpix for it to have?
No, it goes from 6 to 9. It's still just Vulpix to Ninetales. They didn't add anything else.
Really? I mean, with all the Pokemon they try to add, that seems like a no-brainer.
Well, they did make another Vulpix and Ninetales that are Ice type.
I know, but still, it's just like that'd be a no-brainer. Like you have Vulpix and it changes into well, I guess evolving 9 times would be a little. I don't know.
Yeah,
is
if they
too much for Pokemon?
Yes.
That's where we draw the line. So,
well, in terms of how they've done their evolutions, it's usually at most there's 3. One stage, then the middle, then the third at most. The only one that semi breaks this rule is Eevee, but even then, it only evolves once, but it can evolve into 8 things.
Branches out.
Yeah, that's the only semi exception. But in terms of direct trees, it's either 2 stage, one evolves into the other, or 3 stage with a middle where it's one into one thing and then into the final.
Okay, so out of curiosity, since we had this discussion where apparently Eevee is not a fox, does it say what Eevee is?
I can look, and I'm sure that it is a fox. Considering I constantly saw the evolutions as cats, just threw fox out of my mind.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I always saw them as
I will gladly concede that I'm wrong on that.
Well, I don't know that you're wrong. That's why I'm asking.
I'm checking, but I'm sure it's going to say that it's.
According to Japan, like Hello Kitty isn't actually a cat, so I don't know. That's true, by the way. According to the website, Hello Kitty is not a cat.
I know.
I don't know how that works.
Origin. Yeah, okay. It says while Eevee has traits of foxes, dogs, and cats, it's not based on any specific animal.
Okay.
Envision Eevee as a creature that could exist in people's memories, vague memories of seeing cat or dog-like creatures that they. Yeah. Okay. So it's an amalgamation because I guess it's just designed to be familiar.
So based on that, it's almost literally a description of a corner of your eye monster.
Yeah.
Wow. Kind of sucks for it. All right. Well, yep. So, but yeah, I thought Zed, you'd kind of appreciate this little peek at the origin of Pokemon cards. What did you think about it?
I mean, they had to start somewhere.
True, but I don't know. What's your thought on
And I know for a fact they didn't start out thinking that one day these holographic pieces of cardboard would be thousands of dollars.
Well,
tell me.
here's the funny thing: Nintendo originally started off selling the cardboard
They
cards.
started selling like cards, like playing cards or something.
That was originally what they sold before they started doing Mario.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, and I did find the other name of some of those foxes, where the white fox is called Kiko, the black fox is called Koku, gold is Kinko, and silver is Ginkgo. Yeah, basically, well, yeah, I remember because that was the whole thing, was that they were different color coded, but they had like different abilities. These are like the spirit foxes.
Okay, seriously, like they could have done a whole series of Pokemon based on this.
Okay,
There's a
real
lot
quick,
of Fox
the
Legends.
reason that I failed to hold in a laugh just now, I was reading some of the dex entries for the Alolan Ninetales, which is the ice version. And this is what one of the entries says. The reason it guides people all the way down down to the mountain's base, I'm assuming if people got lost in the mountains, is that it wants them to hurry up and leave.
Yes, there are a few tales where the Kitsune will help people because it basically just want them out of the forest or off of its mountain.
Yep.
The creature of my own heart.
Yep. I just read that and I couldn't keep it. I'm like, oh, so it's just like the rest of us. It's just, if someone's there, they just want them to shut up and leave.
Yes.
Hey, I mean, you guys have seen my apartment. My apartment's built for one.
Yeah.
I like it that way. Ugh, so peaceful. All right. Well, good to know. Anything else we want to comment on the Pokemon card game origin?
Obviously the fire typing come from the facts of Foxfire. One of the abilities of Kitsune. Ninetales does have the access to several psychic abilities, which makes sense because Kitsunes can control the mind or have various abilities like levitating things and casting illusions, which all kind of seem like psychic abilities, which goes with some of the psychic ability that that Ninetale learns, such as confusion, extrasensory, and I know you can teach other things like side beams. I think it can learn hypnosis. Let's see. It learns. What's that? What's that ability that calls burn?
Burn?
What is
I don't
it?
know.
I'm going blank on that move that can cause burn that most ghost Pokemon get.
Flame body.
Not the ability, the actual attack.
The move, Will-O-Wisp.
Will-O-Wisp, thank you, Will-O-Wisp, which is a Coast Foxfire. Thank you.
I thought you meant the
ability. It was going like my mind went blank on that. I'm like, what?
No, it's Will-O-Wisp.
Because I always unlearn that move because it's so easy to miss with its accuracy.
Yeah.
Right.
85% chance, I believe.
I don't know what Will-O-Wisp has.
I should say 85% accuracy.
85, yeah. I don't know. Pokemon move accuracies don't make sense.
Pokemon doesn't make sense.
It never made sense. We weren't questioning that bit.
Right. All right. Go ahead and change slides. So, with all this information and the interesting Pokemon origins, what does it really come down to the history? So, I'm not going to lie. The history of this is a little odd, but trying to pick it apart. So, the oldest recorded instance of this word can actually be found in, I am going to butcher this, but I'm going to try my best, the Shin Yakua Kengoku Ongi Shiki. If anybody wants to try that, be my guest.
I'm gonna have to stare at it for half a second.
Shin
That's fair.
Yaku Gokunjio Ongi Shiki.
Kenyaku
Gesundheit.
Kengon Kijo Ongishiki or Ongishi.
I don't know how the Ongi
No, that's.
part is pronounced.
I think it's supposed to be on. Oh yeah, no, I have no idea.
I know the
It's
end
either
is Shiki.
Ongi or Onki or Ongi.
Shinyaku. I believe it's beginning.
Yeah. So,
Oh.
Kingo
however it's
Kiku.
pronounced to all of Japan, we
I don't
apologize.
know. I apologize to all of Japan who knows how to pronounce this, and us Americans for butchering the hell out of it.
Yes, but at least we're admitting it.
I'll
Yeah,
do
I'm
my
sure it's
Texan
much
version.
nicer.
Shinyaka Kingoku Jiro Ongi Shiki. There we go.
You have to go to the racism.
For my Texas version. There we go.
Okay.
All it was missing was you spitting into a spittoon.
You know, I got a trash can right here.
Do not
Don't
spit
do
into a
not
spittoon.
do it. I will find a way to kick you from your own Discord channel.
You may be able to. I think I gave you guys mod ability.
I don't know.
Okay, moving on. So this, I'm not pronouncing that a second time as a service to Japan, is an annotation of the, oh god, another word, Avatamsaka Sutra, which basically this is one of the oldest books of oldest recorded ongai, or specifically collection of difficult to interpret words, which ironically shows their pronunciation and meaning. So essentially, it's an encyclopedia, a grammatical encyclopedia, and it dates back to around 794 AD. This is the earliest recorded message, or I'm sorry, this is the order. Let me try this one last time. This is the oldest written record of Kitsune. Wow, I had trouble getting there. Going back to 794 AD. And like I said, national treasure in Japan. This is where Kitsune is first mentioned and properly pronounced and, described. So now the earliest mention of the foxwife narrative is the Nahome Ryok. Again, if you want to try that, go ahead. Any takers?
Nihome. Nihon.
Nihon
Nihon.
Ryoki?
Ryoki?
Ryorki? Ryorki? I don't. Okay, the R straight to the K is what's tripping me up here.
Nihon Ryoki?
Ryorki?
Ryoki?
Ryorki sounds like I'm saying the name of a dog breed.
Yeah, it. Ryu.
Okay, I have no clue.
Ryoki?
The first word I can get easy is
Okay, well, this story is the earliest mention of the foxwife trope, which comes around 810 AD. So a bit far off. But what's it really tell us? Well, as it turns out, not much, as the name for it can typically mean, in this context, the name for the kitsune can typically mean come and sleep or always comes. So, yeah, the name is actually completely useless. The name's very ambiguous. That's what they think it may mean, come and sleep or always comes, suggesting the kind of vixen, seductress nature of the, fox wife. So we're not going to get much from the name, is my point, which is
Do they actually
part
have
of
the story?
The story, no, I don't have that with me, but it was basically just someone tricks into marrying her, I think.
Okay, because that may be the one I know of. I believe it involved like a peasant or a farmer who finds a injured or trapped fox, take care of it. It disappears, but that same day they find a woman, fall in love with them, take them into their place, grow up, have a whole family with them. I think her one rule is just never come into the room while I'm changing or something like that. Um, well, this is the problem because I'm getting multiple stories confused at this point because this.
Oh, yeah. Okay. No, no, no. Sorry, I did write it down. Never mind.
Okay.
So this is the oldest one, and basically whatever. A man from the Mino province basically marries a fox. She bears him a son, but after their dog turns on her, her true form is revealed. She leaves, but tells the husband, "You may be separated from me, but you'll always love me," and he continues to love her. So this is a very, very simple version of
And I
it.
believe the whole thing with the dog is the dog can always sense the fox. I believe that's one
Yeah.
of the big mythos with the kitsune is even when a kitsune transform, a dog can always sense that it's a fox in disguise.
Yeah, but well, it's a dog, so yeah, of course, makes sense. So yeah, uh, okay, now I remember why. Oh, that's why I have it on my side notes. It's rather boring story of the kitsune. Okay, that makes sense.
And
Yeah, not a lot particularly happens with this one,
in many
but it is the
incarnations,
earliest
it's
record.
the same. The only difference is how she get caught. In other
Yeah,
stories, he get caught because if he looks at her while she's changing, he can see her tail, which reveals she's a fox. In other stories, she's like eating, eating something that a fox will eat, like a chicken, like a whole chicken or something like that, and that reveals it. It like different stories have different ways of how she get kind of discovered by the other guy.
yeah. So it's pretty much Fox pretends to be Fox shapeshifts into a woman, and uh, eventually she gets found out. That's the entire plot of the story.
Yep.
So that's the plot of the story. It just varies depending on the story. But the earliest version comes from about 810 to 822 AD. So, relatively speaking, this is not a very old myth. Now, again, name's ambiguous. There's not much to it. So, you know, great. Uh, it can often be part of omens that are good or bad. You know, what does it mean? So go ahead to the next slide. All right. So considering, like I said, there's not much to this. It's so this whole series has been about like showing the possible origins of monsters, mythical beasts, and things like that, right?
Yep.
And it's of course based on the book Mythical Monster, Probable, Possible, Plausible, an explanatory guide to monsters of myth, which talks about 24, I think, different monsters, and these are excluded mostly because their mythos is very hard to really pin down as an exact reasoning. And I'm going to kind of highlight why with some of these things. So, taking apart the various pieces, let's first take a look at the nine tailed fox, in particular, the number nine. Why nine? Well, in Japanese lore, nine is a symbol of supreme sovereignty. It's a symbol of the ultimate yang energy and eternity. Now, you might be asking, why is nine the symbol for all this? Well, as far as I could make out and look into, nine, like the word nine in Japan, sounds very similar to their word meaning long lasting.
Okay.
So that's why. Yeah. And Japanese, kind of like the Chinese, frankly had an obsession with living forever, which is something we'll look into a little bit more later. But that's kind of why the nine is really part and why the most powerful fox has nine on it, because they valued this idea of living forever. And since nine sounded similar to long lasting, that became the kind of number of supreme sovereignty and ultimate desire for life. Relatively makes sense,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay, so now go ahead and switch slides. Now we're going to move on to the part that might piss some people off, in that, but it is something that most experts agree on, is that the Japanese kitsune was very heavily influenced by older Chinese mythology, and that most Japanese mythologies were influenced by Chinese mythologies, which kind of explains upon a human migrational pattern, showing the humans very much as they spread out from, wherever life began. I know there's debate for that, and I don't want to get into it. It was showing that they started in China and eventually moved to Japan, and not the other way around. Hence, the influence that we can see for Chinese mythology to Japanese mythology. Comments?
I mean, pretty much there's a lot of shared like yokai or yograi between the Chinese and Japanese mythos.
Very true.
So yeah, that kind of pans out, and even the story of the fox vixen is like there's multiple Chinese variants of it.
Yeah, there is. And one of them, which we'll take a look at, go ahead and switch slides. We can kind of see this, is the, oh boy, Hulijing. Is that how you pronounce it?
Hu Yi
Again,
Jing,
feel
Yeah.
free
Hu Yi
to.
Jing. I don't know. I don't believe you put a
Hui
lot of emphasis on the lead part.
Jing.
I think it's just Hu Yi Jing. I believe.
Yeah.
I may be butchering that because it's been a long time since I
I'm
put that.
sure that we're butchering it by constantly
Oh,
trying.
I know I'm butchering it. Like I'm not even pretending not to, but yeah. Well, I tried to pronounce it once to all of China. I Wait a minute. Why am I apologizing to China? Anyway, this is the Chinese fox spirit. Basically, pretty much similar rules. Also, fox spirit. They have powers of shape shifting. They can be malevolent or benevolent. Um, Good or bad omens. They also have tails where they possess nine tails as well. Very similar origin stories, so you can kind of see where this came from. Um, Not much to it. Just Japan kind of ripped off China, except they gave it a little spin. But if copyright had existed back then, I'm pretty sure we'd have a lawsuit.
Well, I
It's
think
definitely something that Disney would sue over.
the main difference is Japan's started to put more focus on their fox mythos to be part of their whole Shinto religion with
Yeah,
the whole
like
fertility
that's
everything,
part of the
because I don't think the Chinese associate the fox with fertility like the Japanese does.
um not necessarily. So there's a little ambiguous gray area there, which I'll get into in
I
a minute.
mean, yes, with the good and bad omen type stuff, you could argue that a fox can usher in a good harvest, but I mean the Japanese kind of center the fox around the harvest with the
Sort
Inari.
of. Okay, so yeah, there's a little bit of ambiguity in that. So you are right, and go ahead and switch slides to kind of focus in on the point. Is for instance with Japan, especially, they centered foxes around Inari Okami,
Yes.
which is a major Japanese Shinto deity,
Yes.
or kami as they're called, who is supposed to be the deity of rice, agriculture, fertility, tea, sake, and general prosperity.
Mm-hmm.
So, all the good things. And the foxes were typically seen as its messengers. So, this is where it kind of gets related and where foxes become more of these deities and how Japan really put them up. Now, as to Japan and China worshiping foxes, believe it or not, why are foxes considered good? Well, there is some good reasoning for this and why they'd be related to this. Now, um, sorry, but we're going to look into that a bit later. But this is where kind of the worship of foxes starts to kind of play in, is that they are attached to these deities that are basically good for it. And it's something that, again, that we'll see China and Japan share a bit. But anything you want to add with the looking over about, how foxes kind of got interpreted into the yokai or malevolent to benevolent spirits gig,
Um,
I
I,
guess?
I just remember that the Inari was like a major Shinto. Well, I think it's a major Shinto deity figure because they have multiple shrines dedicated to Inaris where people will go pray to it for a good harvest.
Yeah,
And or they'll pray to it at the beginning end of the year for a prosperous year.
makes sense. And yeah, to be fair, in China, the Hui Jing could be at times messengers, but they were not exclusively messengers. But that's another thing. So, okay, and we'll touch on that a bit more in a minute. So go ahead and switch slides. Okay, so this was the power that we mentioned earlier, especially with the nine-tailed fox from Pokemon, in that it is a fire type. And that is a story that nine-tails are supposed to be able to shoot fire from their tails.
Missed
And
opportunity.
I'm not going to lie, huh?
You missed a huge opportunity to have the Firefox logo from the internet browser.
Yeah, you're right. I'm not gonna lie, I completely forgot that was a thing. Firefox. God, I've not heard that in years. You're right. I could have put that there. I completely forgot that even existed. So I'm not gonna lie. I was trying to figure out maybe a possible like origin for this kind of fire and fox thing. Thought was maybe the color. Foxes are orange. Fire is often fire's orange. I mean, it could be a nice little relation to that. The thought about Samson, for those who are more biblical, Samson tying um, torches to foxes' tails and then run through the fields to light the Philistines' crops on fire for revenge. Maybe something, but honestly, I couldn't really find a clear, definitive association with fire that would really put foxes with it. So your guys' guess is as good as mine. Got anything?
Maybe it's because of the fox shape of its tail and how some foxes have, their tail, the end of their tail is bright compared to the rest of their fur. It could be a play on a trick on the
Yeah,
eyes
the
if you're carrying around a lantern at night and it shines upon a fox's end of their tail. It may make it look like there's a type of flame.
yeah, I could see that, but like the shooting fire seems a little extreme. But I guess if you're gonna make
Um,
up a story, that does sound
I
like a
don't
natural
know if
progression.
there's been any. I've been trying to think if there's been any times where foxes had their tails tied with bundles of fire at the end, like in the Bible in Japan.
Yeah, no, I tried to find if there was another instance of that. I couldn't find one. Like Samson is the only one who apparently did that trick, as far as I know. Well, I guess
Like
it's
there are
like the Trojan
instances where
horse.
people tie
It only
fire
works
to the
once,
end of
right?
horse tails and let them
Yeah,
loose.
yeah, but it's a horse. Like,
Hmm,
but I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was like a one-trick pony type of thing, and they just kept the story.
maybe.
Yeah, it would be hysterical if this was somehow the thing that they took with the migration
Now,
from
it
the center of
is
the earth into the story.
possible.
I doubt it, but it'd be funny.
This is kind of a stretch, but this is possible because
This
foxes
whole
was
thing's a
known
bit of a
as
stretch, but go for it.
tricksters, and because most hills and forest areas would have been filled with robbers or bandits. And they would try to rob people during the night, and they would use lanterns to light their way that would have been probably dimly lit so they didn't draw enough attention to themselves. It is possible that because the mythos of Fox tricking people and causing illusions to make them lead them astray, and the fire shooting out from their tail could be a allegory to maybe like a bandit or robber with a lantern in the middle of the night, luring you off of the beaten trail with those lanterns, thinking maybe it was other people who could guide you, and then they rob you. Thus, avoid the fire coming from the fox as avoid the lantern coming your way as that because most of the time the way I've heard the foxfire get described is as flames in the night that lead you astray. I've heard that it can shoot the fire at you, but most of the time the way I hear the fire get told in stories and folk tales is a random fire in the night that's a small little fire that leads people astray or lead people off the pathway.
Yeah, it sounds more like the wisp from Scottish and Celtic
Yeah,
tales.
that's how it actually was actually described in some of the folk tales I've heard.
Makes sense. It's not a bad theory altogether, but my one question is that the bandit theory is that these stories don't often say that when they do this, they're ever robbed. At
No.
least not as far as I know. So that's where I'm kind of like not completely on board. Is like if it said that the foxes as tricksters then decided to rob you, I'd say yeah, no, that would make sense. But they
Are
don't
they
actually mention
alive
ever being.
after the encounter?
Well, yeah, because they say that the Kitsune made me lose my path and I got lost, but they come back after being alive. So, like that's the thing. The stories don't really have them like they're tricksters, but they're not usually the ones who like
Now, it is possible
kill you
that they
unless they're
just
the female who sleeps with you and eats you.
it's possible that they did just follow off the track to get lost. Because now this is a little bit more of the Jingxi from Chinese folklore, the Chinese vampire, um, because kind of the mythos that for those who don't know, the Jingxi is basically if you've ever seen a essentially a Chinese zombie in traditional Chinese clothes with that strange little hat with the giant ball on the top of his head, the small little ball on top of his head, with a giant talisman over his face,
Oh yeah, seen
with
them in
it
animes
arms
every
out
now and again.
like it's sleepwalking. Like the way that whole mythos got started was because people who would carry around dead bodies to transport them would put them on a bunch of rods and balance the bodies that way as they would carry them, and it made the body look like they were hopping around, which is where the whole mythos of undead
The
vampire
hopping vampire.
hopping around was because of how they were carrying transporting the bodies. And the reason people would see them is because they would have lanterns lighting up hanging off of the straps that was also holding the bodies. Thus, it looked like, look at these, vampire spirits with lanterns, with these, ghostly flames surrounding them, hopping about. I'm wondering if it's the same with like foxes, of maybe there was people, hunters in the woods, or just some type of people in the woods with lanterns. People who was trying to wander across a trail would see a lantern in the middle of the forest and go investigate and just get lost, and they would attribute it to a fox tricking them.
I mean, it's not impossible. It's as good explanation as anything. Like again, that's kind of well again that's a point I'll bring up later. But yeah, that's there wasn't a definite reason for this. It's just like honestly, it could just as easily be they just had the same color as fire. I mean, that makes just as much sense. Like there's no like real like definitive, oh yeah, I could see how this came about for the foxes. It's just fox and fire. Again, like I think the color makes the most sense, but yours is just as likely. Um, but yeah, so those are some of the ideas about Foxfire. Zed, you want to add anything to that?
Not necessarily.
I,
I mean, I can't
I
really add anything because, being perfectly honest, the whole tying fire to their tails thing, I didn't know until y'all just mentioned it. So,
yeah, it's Samson. So
Famous
yeah,
story for those who don't know. Samson, when he find the Philistine, I believe this was one the time they had just got done tying him up, or was this before they started tying him up? I think this was before
no,
they
this
started tying
this
him
was
up.
before. This is when he
He,
got married to the Philistine woman, but they tricked him and solved his riddle, so he had to go get coats, but they tricked him anyway. Took his
yeah,
wife, and so as revenge, he tied a bunch of
got a bunch of
torch
foxes.
foxes' tails.
Yeah,
How he caught all these foxes is impressive, but
that's even more impressive that he caught enough foxes, and then he
the frick
just
burned down a few fields.
yeah, and then he let them go, and they ran through the fields and set the fields ablaze.
Yeah. So, kudos. But yeah, this is the only real instance where Fox and Fire really comes into play. But also, I'm more impressed he managed to like not only capture these foxes, but tie freaking torches to their tails. Like, I actually do believe this story just because it's so bizarrely wild. I could see people wanting to record it. Like, dude, you wouldn't believe what freaking happened.
Um, I
But
believe the tale just because I believe they've done this before with horses, and they've done this before with cattle.
yeah, but
I
you can
know for a
get
fact they've done it with cattle, actually.
yeah, but you get horses and cattle to stay. Have you ever tried to catch a fox?
Oh no, because the
There's a
foxes.
whole there's literally a whole like hunting sport around it because they're hard to catch.
Yeah,
But yeah, not the point. We've got off track. So go ahead and switch slides. So now this is something I wanted to kind of touch in because, like I said, I'm breaking down the pieces. So I was thinking about the leaf money, and this also plays into the Tanaku. Wait, Tanaki or Tanaku?
Tanaki,
Tanuki.
Tanuki. Yeah,
Tanuki. Sorry, Tanuki. I was thinking, the leaf money. Perhaps we should be looking at counterfeit money. I did look this up. Counterfeit money was actually rampant in ancient and medieval Japan, like absolutely rampant. And this was for a couple of reasons. One was the complete debasement of official currency. People would debase all the time, melt it down, everything else. Also, the government of Japan apparently abandoned minting money for a while, and this led to the minting of private currency throughout Japan. So you had many private mints minting their own private currency. And then in 1600s, paper money was introduced, but it didn't become nationwide until 1868. Rampant counterfeiting of all paper money. These are some early examples of 1600 paper money from Japan. Uh, I will admit they look very stylized and cool. Um, I'm not sure I would think of it as cash, but cool. Uh, I did find out that the paper money was originally made from various plants and leaves, so maybe that has something to do with the leaf money, and that if you're going with the total trickster element, uh, counterfeit money seems like a pretty nasty trick. So perhaps leaf money, to show its worthlessness, is where the story came from. What do you think?
that's possible.
I couldn't find a better explanation. If you guys have one, like by all means, like if you find a painting of someone paying people with leaves, and they turned out to be marijuana leaves, and that was a form of currency, I'll take it. Like that makes just as much sense. But this was the best explanation I could come up with. Which I don't know. I think it has its merits, but I'm biased,
I mean,
obviously. So
counterfeiting have always been like a big issue in like every culture, and I mean, what was it
it's
back
still
in?
an issue today.
Yeah, well, I mean, what was it back in the day with coins? They would scrape off the edges of coin to lessen the weight of it, so that way they could use some of the skimmings to make another coin.
Yep.
Um,
Funny enough, a problem solved in England by none other than Isaac Newton. He actually solved that problem by suggesting that coins have the ridges around them. You know,
Yes,
if you have your quarters, those little ridges.
which stopped
Isaac
the
Newton came
skimming.
up with that. Yeah, that's thanks to Isaac Newton. Actually, a little lesser known fact about him, which I did not know. I don't remember how I found that out, but I thought it was really interesting. And it's nice to know why money has that on it, but that's neither here nor there. That's also when money was made of more valuable metals. So, you know,
Yeah,
but
the only thing about money I remember is a video on Auto
Well,
that mentioned how Spain had an issue with counterfeiting their currency using platinum.
with platinum,
Yes,
I mean, it seems like kind of a waste.
it was because they didn't know what platinum was. They just knew
Really
that they were able to use it to essentially counterfeit what their gold that they used as currency. Which
makes sense.
Spain responded in the dumbest way possible, at least by modern standards.
It's Spain.
They dumped their entire national platinum supply into the ocean.
I think I know where the paper money came from now.
Yep, that was their answer to stop counterfeiting using platinum. They dumped it all in the ocean.
Oh, they must be kicking themselves right now.
I'm sure they are.
If we can't have it, no one can.
Apparently,
I think,
Yeah, that sounds like Spain.
because to them it was worthless because it wasn't shiny.
isn't
Well,
platinum
shiny
pretty?
like gold.
Okay, I'm about to say, isn't platinum pretty
Sorry, shiny. When I say shiny, I'm referring to gold. In terms of
It doesn't surprise me. I mean, after all, uh, we the modern game of chess was done by a Spanish queen. Um, for context, you guys have both played chess, right?
Yes.
yes,
Okay, so the queen is the most powerful piece on the board.
yeah.
The reason for that is in the original game of chess, the queen had the same powers as the king. It could move one space. Now, then in the 1400s, they were teaching this game to the newly appointed Queen Isabella I of Castile in Spain. And when they were explaining the game to her, they mentioned the queen on the chess piece. And she looked at them and said, "Is that what you think of me? You think I'm that weak?" So to appease her, they changed the rules so that the queen's piece became the most powerful piece on the game. So,
Also
um,
known as they didn't want to die.
yeah. So basically, the entire game of chess has been changed for all time because of a woman's ego. To the ladies, I'm sorry, but yeah, the game of chess is proof y'all have some egos too. Is that sexism or is that just fact?
No, that one's just fact. I don't think
They'll
that's
call it
one that can be.
sexism.
They
Yeah, you're right.
will, but
It
the
doesn't
fact
matter.
is that history backs it up everywhere.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm trying really hard not to make sexist jokes, so I'm just muting myself.
Well, you don't really have to make sexist jokes. Like history has it, like the famous one about if women ran the world, things would be so much better. What often people forget is that women have ruled several countries, and they actually had some historians take a look at these countries and do comparisons. As it turned out, women rulers were 27% more likely to go to war than male rulers.
Now, I'll be nice and argue devil advocate. In several ways, you gotta take into account that there are more male rulers than female rulers to take a sample
Oh no,
size from.
oh
And
no, there's a lot of context in this. I
and
just think the numbers are funny.
and the other thing I have to argue is if a woman ruler took over and I was the male ruler in a neighboring kingdom, my first thought is I got to declare war on them because this is gonna be so easy to take them over.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Well, Again, this is where context comes from because some women came into control of very powerful nations. So some were actually not willing to do that, and some, especially like some of the African queens, nobody dared touch them because they were kind of crazy. Now, there's nuance to the study. Again, I just find the numbers funny to piss off bitter feminists. But regardless, what were you saying about the paper money?
I think I got an idea where it came from because so if they introduced paper money around 1600, and I'm
Yeah.
assuming that's Japan.
Yes.
Previously in Japan, they were using rice as currency. That was like a unit
Yeah.
of one of the things they were using as a measurement of currency. I mean, they also had essentially, I believe it was called Ryu, the gold coins, Rio,
Yeah. The
RYO, I
ones.
believe.
Yeah. The charm on Meowth's head.
Yes. Um, which was a another way of currency, but rice was also a very common currency. Basically, what was currency in Japan back then was tangible, actual things that held a lot of value. Gold, the actual previous currency, lots of value. Everyone liked gold. You can trade gold for anything. The other one being rice. Again, rice, lots of value because it's food.
Yeah.
You can measure its value. It can almost claim how much land you have by how much rice you can collect. Um, but then when you introduce paper money to a peasant Japanese person who's been using either gold or rice as currency, paper money must seem as useless as leaves.
Yeah. No, that's
And
kind of what I was kind of proposing with both, I guess, currency and counterfeit money. Both the introduction would be it.
yeah,
So it's all about value in the end.
yeah, basically.
So yeah. So that's why I was thinking that this was a decent explanation for the leaf money, right?
Yeah, I bet some did try to use leaves to pass it off.
Well, I mean, technically the paper is made from leaves, so either way it works. All right. Well, so yeah, that's explanation for leaf money. So go ahead and switch slides. And so now let's discuss this a little bit about the practical reasons for fox worship. So, believe it or not, while I don't suggest anybody should start worshiping foxes, I can kind of see
I
where they
disagree.
would be.
You should pray to me. I welcome those who accept the Church of the Shadow of Fox. I am looking for roles for my bishop, cardinals, and pope.
Okay, are you just trying to piss off every religion on the planet?
Hawk, let there begin. Okay, open up to the first book of the All Fox. Like,
You'll notice I've checked out because if you heard anything from my end, that was compressed air cleaning something because I don't care to hear about the Church of the Arfox.
Anyway, other people who have worship foxes and still do it today, as for those of us looking on YouTube, we can see the kind of shrine that comes up with it. So I didn't know that's what these shrines were for. So interesting. But anyway, so some of the reasons that people might have actually looked into worshiping foxes. Zed, this is not part of Shadow Our Fox's church. This is actually part of the video.
I know.
I promise.
Part I believe. This part I believe.
Okay. So some of the potential practical reasons for fox worship is one, wild foxes, when they're looking to place their dens or make their homes, they tend to try to find very safe places. So if you find foxes around, there's a good chance that the area you're in is actually a relatively safe place, which is a good place for people to set up their homes and their homesteads, which is actually what they did. Um, and also, foxes are natural enemies of rats. And of course, rats are known for carrying all sorts of plagues, getting to food and everything. People don't like rats. I mean, to this day, you don't want rats in your home. So, foxes, being a natural predator of rats, would eat them, get rid of them, and that would actually protect them because, of course, rats carry various forms of diseases, and plagues. So there is some practical reasons for worshiping foxes, or well, should say there's some practical reasons for how foxes came to be worshipped, because you could see people kind of using these creatures as type of ways for safety. It's kind of like that old story about if you find water out in the wilderness and you see stuff's growing in it, it's probably okay to drink because something's living in it. But if you see water that has nothing growing in it, you might not want to drink it, because if nothing can survive in it, it's probably bad for you. So you can see a little bit about where this fox deity kind of emerged from, is that foxes, especially in times where you're setting up homes and shelters for the first time, could be a good indication of where exactly to set up. Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. It should also be
Yeah.
noted that a lot of those shrines was at the time of their creation put in like the middle of wilderness areas where there were probably a lot of foxes
Right.
just living.
I mean, that's probably why.
Well, I mean, the whole thing with Shinto is peace with nature. So like a lot like most if you've ever seen all of those shrines, notice how so many of them have look like they are built in the middle of a park.
Yeah.
Or they're built on top of a mountainside in the middle of a forest. That's all on purpose.
Yeah, I believe that. Okay, and with that, that leads us to our last slide, which Shadow Fox was kind of confused about, and I'll explain why. So I mentioned before that these were not really put into Probable, Possible, Plausible, and Explanatory Guide to Monsters and Myth. And the reason for that is that, again, it's hard to really find details about this. And that's why I want to kind of go in this, what we all take from this in the Chinese versus Japanese stories, is that one, Chinese and Japanese seems to really like their stories. And to me, like, they almost attach spirits or importance to basically everything. And then they have myths about these spirits either being a benevolent force, helping or hindering. So all their stories come down to facing deities, which are essentially representations of nature, to almost a man versus nature kind of story, to where mankind has to fight these powerful forces or powerful deities, to where it's possible that they conquer or are taken down by nature itself. What do you think? This is a discussion. I don't know. Like, it's
Are
just
we
my kind of
referring
thought.
in terms of the journey to the west or in general with like Japanese and Chinese folk tales?
Yes to both.
Because Journey to the West, it Tripakawa, who is the only human of the gang, he doesn't take anything down. It's all the it's all monkey, Pixie
Oh,
and
yes. No,
Sandy.
I know it's yeah, no, it's them who does all the work, but I'm saying that there's still this story of man versus nature. The threats are the natural world, which are, of course, personified as deities, as they basically personify everything as deities. The mountain has a deity, the river has a deity, etc., etc.
Well, that's part of the whole
And it's
Shinto
something they
for
have to
Japanese.
face. Yeah, and that's the thing. Um, so it's almost as if, like, you have mankind being able to conquer deities or conquering nature, where it's almost like a bit of propaganda of mankind. Look, that we're able to conquer these powerful deities of nature.
You kind of half right because you gotta remember Chinese and Japanese. Chinese had Taoism, Japanese had Shinto. Shinto, of course, focus on man and nature kind of living harmoniously, and Taoism also kind of focus more on whereas sorry, is it Taoism or Taoism? Taoism, I believe. Where Buddhism focus more on reflecting inward on yourself and stuff like that. Taoism reflected more on reflecting on yourself as the environment around you, primarily nature, which is why you have like these kind of conflicting tales of some cases nature is like a healthful type of element, such as the fox being a a sign of good omen or fortune or prosperity, and then you got other situation where it is man versus nature, and the yokais or monsters like foxes are associated with something you must overcome to essentially survive. So there's a half and half, a yin yang um of that throughout the Chinese and Japanese mythos. I find.
Yeah, no, and that's kind of my point, though, is that it almost seems to be that the Chinese and Japanese basically assigned nature itself to brought up all of nature to almost deity proportions or deified nature, and then talked about interactions with it being positive or negative, and how mankind is supposed to interact with basically deities themselves, that being nature.
You also got to take into consideration that both Japanese and Chinese do have a pantheon. With the Japanese having like I'm butchering this, Akazuki, and several other like human gods, who control the various portion of nature. Where Akazuki is the sun god, and then you have, I can't remember the name of the moon god. It slipped my mind just now. Um, and then you got the counterpart in China where it's like the eternal Jade Emperor, and
Yeah, there are a lot of
and
counterparts.
Changji, the moon goddess. Um, so you do have the element similar to like with Greeks, where it's literally like the gods are the personification of the planet and the various elements. Um, but you also got the I mean, it is very similar to the Greeks in that regard of like you have monsters that do represent portions of the elements or the territories which those monsters dwell. But at the same time, there's both helpful monsters like the Pegasus, as well as harmful monsters like the Gorgon.
True.
Eh,
Though let's say we'll say that Greek myths had a bit more, and I realize how weird it sounds considering we're speaking about monsters. Greek myths, Greek monsters in particular, did have a little bit more that tend to stem more with reality, if that makes sense,
Uh,
or that had not stem more with reality, but had logical steps towards the overall form, best represented form of the monster. I think that's a better way to say it.
depends what we're talking about
Yeah,
here.
no, it depends on a lot of monsters, but like there was there's more of a natural progression with some of the Greek monsters, not all of them, but with some of them. And some of them were probably just actually real, like the freaking Kraken, which I know is not exclusively Greek, but uh, you see my point. Now others are stranger, like the Hydra. Though we did do an entire video about the
The
Hydra, but like
Chimera.
the Chimera, yeah, that's it's actually one we haven't touched on yet. I'm not gonna lie, that one's gonna get really weird, which is kind
Um,
of why I'm avoiding it a little bit. um, but yeah, no, there's definitely weird ones, but others there was kind of a logic to it, like Medusa. We went over that. There was a logic to Medusa.
the
Um,
the hecatons,
which one were the hecatons?
thousand head, thousand eyes, thousand arm giants.
Yeah, yeah, no, like I said some of them, some of the more, but that's also my point. The more well-known
Typhon.
monsters add more logic to it. No, actually, we went over Typhon.
Yeah, but I mean that Typhon is not a very like. There's no
Well,
one
it's
to
snake.
one creature you can go for Typhon.
Well, no, snakes. Remember, we were mentioning that it's interesting. A sky deity versus a serpent, and we kept seeing that pattern throughout almost every religion, or a lot of them. is that we have a sky deity versus a serpent. But that's my point, is that Chinese and Japanese basically seemed as where Greek mythology had basically certain monsters. Chinese and Japanese just said everything's a deity.
I will argue they would say everything had the potential to become either a positive or negative deity.
Alex, yeah, that's probably a better accuracy, but everything had power, is for one thing.
Yes.
And
Again, it goes to the whole Taoism and Shinto religion, religious and ideology principles that the Chinese and Japanese have for that time periods.
yeah, so that's kind of where I'm getting at with almost a little bit of propaganda manipulation, showing that whether you work with it or conquered it, how mankind could basically live amongst or even control things that they basically claimed were deities. So where you get this sense of mankind either bowing down, conquering, or living with nature, which in this case is deities. And I think that's where it's kind of harder to describe, because it seems like they focused more on trying to kind of have a story system, or to whip out a mythos as quickly as possible about how you interact with deities altogether, with that being nature. And then I guess you could also almost argue that a good reason for doing this is that, imagine if you're in a time where people were building huts and trying to survive nature, where nature literally could kill you at every single turn. You come to those who have, vast cities in this time that seem to have conquered nature. You could almost say that a city or a great establishment or settlement was almost a way of either living with or conquering nature itself.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say the settlement because so let's take a journey to the west. One of the first thing Tripitaka the monk encounter as he set out on his journey is he is attacked by a tiger, and he is saved by a hunter who easily kills the tiger. He thinks the hunter is a god or a deity because of how easily he dealt with the tiger, only to find out that that not only was the hunter a mortal, just a regular guy, um, he was still within the territory of the Tang Empire. He hasn't even left his empire yet. He's just on the very outskirts of it, and the hunter is nothing more than just a poor peasant huntsman who lives in a small hut with his entire family. Um, and he's just really good at killing tigers. He's just gotten really, really good at killing tigers. Because it's a
Okay, but
mountainside full of tigers, so he's always killing them and hunting them.
doesn't that still kind of play into
Well, I was speaking
man
against
over
the whole
nature?
settlement thing. It's not so much settlement as it is just regular people. It doesn't even need, you don't need the settlement. You just need the
Well, no, I
person
know you
who's.
don't need the settlement, but I'm just saying, like, with the premise of, oh, it's man versus nature, man conquering or man living with nature. A settlement would be kind of like the ultimate showing of being able to kind of tame nature, or ultimate work with nature, but it still would be in fitting with the tiger skin, you know, well,
Well,
not the tiger skin, the tiger killing warrior, because again, that's still conquering nature.
well, no, in a way, I was speaking in favor of what you're saying because they also
Oh, okay.
in that literally the next chapter is freeing Sun Wukong, the Monkey King, and what does he immediately do once he gets freed? Well, Tripitaka is being attacked by another tiger, and he instantly kills the tiger and turns it into a pelt that he wears, which you see in that picture. That's his pelt
Yes.
right there. Um, So it's like, you literally have the same story of a mortal killing a tiger earlier using bow and arrows and human tools. And then the very next chapter is a deity-like figure killing a tiger with simply nothing more than a swing of his staff.
Yeah, so that's why when I really thought about it, I was kind of like almost curious about if this was like a propaganda type of thing. But again, you can't be sure. But well, I think especially these type of
I
myths
would
were a
call it
little bit of propaganda because they were kind of trying to separate themselves from the Chinese. So
I wouldn't
you'd
even
have to
call
have a
it
little bit.
propaganda. I would call it just their version of folktales. And oh um and fables and stuff.
Yep.
Not fables. Oh, what do you call the stories that have a
Or they
educational
have a
meaning?
lesson to it.
Yeah, a lesson to it.
I forget, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, my mind's been slipping with me lately, and what kills me is I literally have a book of, I think it's fable.
Is it Fable? It doesn't sound right,
Um,
but could be.
Fairy tales.
Well, I mean, fairy tales naturally teach a lesson, but I think there's an actual word.
There is a word I just cannot remember it right now. Um, because a lot of those stories are basically those types of
Parable,
what was it?
parable or allegory.
Parable. Most of them, because a lot of those stories, like take for example all of the Fox Vixen story. That's always that's like a clear parable of you could argue that's a parable against loose women. You could argue that's a parable about letting in the case of the one with the where it's the emperor, you could argue that's a parable about letting women letting the wrong women, interfere in your life. Um, with many of the Fox stories, with them being tricksters, you can argue that don't let things lead you astray. Like a lot of these folk tales always do have some type of like hidden message or meaning in it that you could take from it.
Yeah, no, that's why I was kind of comparing it. Like that's why I mentioned the Little Red Riding Hood, especially with the leading astray part.
Yeah.
But I just mentioned like why these things are kind of so hard to kind of pinpoint is that besides having moral lessons, like it's almost like they were just trying to increase the overall importance of everything around them,
Yes.
which makes it very hard when you try to find origins of various monsters.
Well,
Is when you basically make everything a monster, then you don't really have any idea what to look for.
that's also kind of the thing you gotta take with the Japanese and Chinese culture was because like most of these are folklore, so most of these are always whenever you start looking up yokai and stuff, a lot of them are central around certain areas because it's like
Right.
the people or the peasants or the farmers of the areas would come up with those stories. I find like the only one that kind of get like widespread, so the one that are spread by merchants such as Kitsune and Tanuki. Funny enough, both have to do with tricking people, and which will happen to a merchant, and fake money, which also will happen to a merchant, or being tricked by a woman, which will happen to a merchant.
Right. No, yeah, it all fits. So yeah, I think that's why a mixture is that it's almost like you could try to compare this to Mother Goose more than history, if that makes sense.
Should also be noted that there is a fox spirit in Journey to the West.
Yeah, of course there is.
Princess Jade Fox, the consort to the Demon Bull King, the sworn brother of Wukong. And
I mean, in reality, considering Journey to the West, is there anything he doesn't face on his bloody journey?
well, he doesn't directly face the fox. Pixie is the one who kills the fox.
Still,
Like,
like he faced a lot on that bloody journey. Like everyone was trying
well,
to
there's
kill him.
100 chapters.
Yeah, that's my point. Like, is there anything that didn't get in his bloody way?
Um,
I mean, the last thing before he goes is literally the gods just decided he needs one more test, to even it out. So they just screw with him again.
yeah, they try to drown them.
Yeah, that's screwing with him. Great. It's like, well, he's had like only like hundreds, over 100 difficulties. We need to add one more just to make it even.
Actually, that was the reason.
Yeah, I know. That's
Because
some BS.
it was specifically on the journey to the west. The group had to encounter a specific amount of trials that was like a number that is that have significant in Buddhism. So because they were like a little bit less than that, and they had to hit that same number going there and coming back, and because going back they wasn't encountering any trouble, they had to give them one last trial, which was they got stuck in a storm. They got thrown into the ocean and they lost part of the scripture.
Yeah, that's some BS. But with that,
I'm trying to think if he didn't encounter anything else. No.
oh,
Other than that, I do have. I'll bring in the little bit more with the fox on in Journey to the West, being the consort to the Bull Demon King. She was essentially the Bull Demon King mistress, so it goes back to the whole fox being a vixen. He was cheating on his wife with this fox, a younger fox girl. So a younger, more attractive girl who stole a guy away from a married woman. This is clearly a vixen type story right here.
yeah, because that never happens in real life.
Yeah.
Not ever.
So another little whole Kitsune being the wife of something.
Right. Makes sense. And I don't know. With that, Zed, anything else you want to add to it?
Can't really think other than that my congestion can go to hell.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's weather nowadays. All right. Well, but yeah, that was my look at the Kitsune and some of the information on it, which there was a lot. We did not cover everything because there is so much. But I think we covered some of the main points and gave at least a little bit of where some of, if not its absolute origin history, where some of its powers and overall viewpoints came from. Uh, with that, I think this is a good place to end. So until next time, I'm your host, Archimage, along with my co-host,
Shadow of Fox.
And Zed.
and we will see you next time when, I don't know, we'll review some monster.
No,
Later.
perfect. See ya.